Hey guys, I'm Ubiru and welcome back to World of Warships. Today we have a replay sent in by Filipe in his Tier 7 Japanese battleship, the Nagato. The Nagato in World of Warships is a formidable ship in many ways. It has great armour, good speed and powerful overall firepower. The Nagato, being a Japanese battleship, is very low profile and can easily avoid shots from long distance. So this is the Two Brothers map, standard battle, and you can see it's a mostly Tier 8 game with a few Tier 6s, Tier 7s and some Tier 9s. Now Filipe's team has one carrier, whereas the other team has two Iowas. Probably the most powerful battleship tier on tier so far in the game. It has fantastic armour, fantastic health, fantastic guns and fantastic secondary guns. But this replay is about the Nagato, and the Nagato is the Japanese Tier 7 battleship, which is very low profile, very low to the water, has formidable guns at a very good range of over 20 kilometers, has a good broadside and very good secondary guns. So in this replay, Filipe is on the Two Brothers map, which is a map released in 0.4, which is two islands in the centre of the map with lots of small islands either side, with a passage in the centre you can choose to go through if you wish, which is a quicker way to the enemy base, but is a very risky manoeuvre. So the Nagato is very good at long distance duels, and you can see here Filipe is trying to shoot this Iowa at 18.2 kilometers away. Now initially he's firing high explosive in this replay, mainly because high explosive is very good at softening targets, and the high explosive potential damage with battleship guns can very easily wreck secondary guns and destroy guns on enemy ships. So that's one of the tactics you can choose in a battleship to initially soften up your targets you would expect later to brawl with. So he hit the Iowa there for only a small amount of damage, and he set him on fire. So he fired off that salvo at the Iowa, and now he has to play the waiting game. So the waiting game, at standard with all battleships in the game, is at least 30 seconds for your guns to reload, and there they are. He's going to focus down the Sims at 9.7 kilometers away. High explosive is the best ammunition to hopefully kill one of these guys. Shots going in to the rear. He turns at the last second, it skims the back. He does knock out the rudder. The ship is incapacitated, but it did very small amount of damage. So the enemy Iowa is now firing at the Nagato, and the Iowa is famed in this game for having very powerful guns. Now the Iowa there, he hit him for one shell for 4,500 damage. So Filipe has been spotted, and it's very hard when you're in a ship of this size to stop being spotted unless you go outside of surface detectability range. So the Sims is now focusing down Filipe, and now Filipe is firing one salvo into the side of the Sims. In they go, high explosive damage, only 4,000 damage, 200 health left. The torpedo missed. And he's taking flooding damage. So maybe the Sims will die, just 2 more ticks to go. 1 more tick to go, will he die? And it seems the Sims use the damage control party to stop the flooding. So in the Nagato with high explosive shells, your probably best target is to fire at the small ships, the very weak armoured ships like cruisers and destroyers, and soften up battleships. So at this point he's still using high explosive rounds, and this time he's firing again at the Iowa at 13 kilometers away. So shots going into the rear. Looks fairly well aimed. In they go for 2,100 damage and knocked out 3 anti-air guns. So high explosive is very good in many ways. It can set targets on fire, it can damage and ruin guns, and the damage is guaranteed, whereas with armor piercing shells the shots can ricochet, they can bounce, they can miss very easily. So now Filipe has put himself in a pencil formation to make him a smaller target from the enemy battleships, so they have a smaller chance of hitting him. The Sims is there at 53 health, and many other battleships and cruisers in the distance. So he needs to think about which target to hit. Probably the best target to hit would be one of the battleships to soften them up further, and the Iowa is there again. So 53,000 health, you can tell it's an unupgraded Iowa because of its maximum health is only 68,000, whereas the upgraded version has around 70,000. So there we are, 4,200 damage, and he knocked out several of his anti-air guns, which is always good against the carrier on his team because the carrier is going to try and kill the battleships, and if the battleships can't defend themselves, then it's going to help the team quite a lot. So the Iowa just ate a couple of torpedoes there, but the Iowa is fantastic at taking minimum damage from torpedoes. So he took 3 or 4 torpedoes there, but he is repairing. The Oba is behind him. He's very low. He's sitting in the water. It seems like he's incapacitated. His engine might be knocked out. High explosive all the way. 2 guns only available at this situation because his 2 other guns are not round just yet. Shots going in. 17,000 health left. 2,100. He knocked out 6 more anti-air guns. His allies are focusing this guy down. This guy is sitting ducks. Now, the Iowa is a very formidable ship, but when you go a lone soldier, when you rush in towards the enemies alone, you will very likely die very quickly. You know, it has quite a lot of armor, but it can't take on an entire fleet. And now Filipe has decided to use armor-piercing shells instead of high explosive shells. Armor-piercing shells have a lot better overall damage, if they manage to penetrate. And of course they can do Citadel hits, which are a massive amount of damage. So he's side onto him now. All guns are available. 1 second reload. Full broadside. He's repairing. Probably pointless though. Shots going into the rear, just next to the gun. 1 Citadel hit, and he knocked him out for 11,000 damage. So usually the Citadel location is underneath the guns, where the magazines are. And when you hit that location and you penetrate sufficiently enough, you can do a substantial amount of damage. And there we are, a tier 7 killing a tier 9 battleship with 11,000 damage. So the next ship up is the Amagi, and that's the tier 8 Japanese battleship. Now the Amagi is even better than the Nagato in terms of low profile, and it's a very hard target to hit. It also has 5 knots better speed than the Nagato. So the shots have to be very well aimed in order to get a decent hit on an Amagi. So 55,000 health left, shots going in, first salvo missed, it looked well aimed but the accuracy span off. Second salvo going into the rear of the ship, and it was a miss as well. So unfortunately, not that time. 16 kilometers is a very long distance, and of course if you're firing battleship shots in excess of 15 kilometers, your dispersion really kicks in and you're very, very likely to miss. So the Amagi has now seen Filipe in his Nagato. He fired a full salvo at him. Shots coming in. And he's doing a couple of shots in return. He took a couple of thousand damage, nothing major, fortunately. Shots going into the side of the Amagi. The Amagi has gone to a complete stop. 1 Citadel hit for 12,000 damage. Knocked out his engine, incapacitated him. Second salvo going in for 5,400 damage, non-Citadel hit. So in just 1 salvo, he did around 20,000 damage to the Amagi, and then he took around 5,000 damage himself. So the Amagi's firing again. So this is a proper battleship on battleship brawl. 16 kilometers away, shots going in from the Amagi. Oof, with only 4,000 damage. His shots going in now to the Amagi, to the side of the ship, for another Citadel hit for 9,000 damage, and killed off the Amagi. So far Filipe has killed off an Iowa, a tier 9 battleship in a tier 7 Nagato, and a tier 8 Amagi. So now there's only 2 ships left in that location, a Cleveland and an Ober. The Cleveland is famed in World of Warships for having a fantastic DPM, and the Ober as an overall sort of cruiser with torpedoes as well. So we can focus down the Cleveland at this distance. I probably wouldn't recommend firing a cruiser at this distance, just because cruisers are so hard to hit because they're so fast, but he's giving it a shot anyway. So the shots are going in. The Cleveland's seen the shots coming. He's turning very sharp, and unfortunately the shots have missed. So far in this game, Filipe has done a fantastic job, and his team is winning 6-3. He has 9 seconds left of a reload, and he has armor-piercing shells ready. If you look on the other side of the map, there's a couple of battleships and cruisers there as well, which can be a threat later on in the match. So he's going to try and fire 1 salvo at the Cleveland within respectable gun range, hopefully get a shot. He's leading the shots a bit more than usually. The Ober took a massive hit there. The Ober's going to go down, and hopefully the Cleveland shots will hit. So the shots went into the Cleveland, unfortunately for no damage, and it was a ricochet. So now he's going back to assist his team on the right side of the map. An Iowa and a New Orleans there. Now the Iowa is at full health, and you can tell by its health that is a fully upgraded Iowa. So the Iowa is at 17.5 kilometers away, and New Orleans is assisting at 14 kilometers away. So now's a good opportunity to get his guns around. Going to fire a couple of salvos at the New Orleans, hopefully finish him off. Shots going in now to the New Orleans. He's trying to turn to avoid the shots. In they go. 2,500 damage, and the Iowa did a full broadside and hit Filipe for nearly 20,000 damage. That was a devastating broadside from the Iowa, and Filipe cannot survive another one of those. So he's now getting his guns prepared to kill off, hopefully, the New Orleans, which is within gun range. So he's got 5 seconds left to reload. He's telling his team to focus this guy down 11 kilometers away. So that's getting closer and closer to prime distance for dispersion. Firing a full salvo into the side of the New Orleans. 10 kilometers away. Going just behind the gun. In they go. 14,000 damage. He has repaired that, and now he's getting in a formation to defend himself from the incoming Iowa fire. So New Orleans is firing another salvo into Filipe. In they come. 4,000 damage, knocked out one of his secondary guns and one of his anti-air guns. So now the New Orleans is trying to kite Filipe. You can tell by the way he's turning, but he's going quite slow as he's turning, so that's not a good position for him. 4-second reload. The Iowa's low as well. Shots going in now, full salvo with armor piercing into the side of the New Orleans, 14,000 health left, center of the ship, 1 Citadel hit, and he knocked him out. So that's one of the supporting ships down, 4 ships left on the enemy team, and Filipe has done fantastically well so far with 3 kills. So now there's an Iowa left with 60,000 health and a Cleveland now supporting him to Filipe's left at 13 kilometers away. And the Iowa is now firing a full salvo into Filipe. In they come. Fortunately for only a small amount of damage, only 4,500 damage, he was in a very good position there as a straight line to avoid all the fires. Now that the Iowa has fired, now's the opportunity for Filipe to turn broadside onto the Iowa and fire his main guns. Firing a full salvo, 8 guns in total, shots going in to the center of the ship, 18,000 damage including 1 Citadel hit, so that's a fantastic amount. And now the Iowa is about to get his guns ready, so Filipe needs to get in a straight line to avoid the incoming fire, but the Iowa is about to fire his main guns. He only has around 5 to 10 seconds left to reload, but fortunately for Filipe, the Iowa isn't focusing him down, and instead he's focusing down an ally. He needs to turn broadside onto this guy to hopefully finish him off. So the first 2 guns are ready, waiting for the good position to fire. And now the Iowa is focusing on Filipe. You can tell by the guns are angled. The Cleveland has just fired a full salvo at Filipe. The Iowa is in a terrible position really to fire at. Going to fire a full salvo with all guns at the Cleveland at full health at 9 kilometers away. It's going to fire a full salvo, partially blind, to the side of the Cleveland. Shots are going in, 35,000 damage, 3 Citadel hits, 1 Confederate, devastating strike, and he destroyed the ship from full health. In this situation, Filipe was very low, and unfortunately the Iowa did finish him off. But the Iowa is quite low, only 30,000 health left, and his team has a massive advantage. So Filipe did fantastic in this game. He got 4 kills and a substantial amount of damage. So in the last stages of that duel, you noticed that the Iowa did turn, and that's probably the best thing for a battleship to do in that situation. He put himself in a straight line, very hard target to hit. Of course, Filipe changed direction, focused down the Cleveland instead, because he was the only good target to fire at, and managed to do 3 Citadel hits in a row and kill off a full health Cleveland. So even if you're using armor piercing shells, you can very easily kill ships from full health with some luck. So Filipe went on to win that game with 300,000 credits, 4,658 experience, 233 free experience, the devastating strike and Confederate medal, 28 hits in total including some of those big hits in the game, 5 incapacitations, 4 destroyed, 1 set on fire, and 8 Citadel hits. In terms of team experience, he came on top with 3,105 base experience, and in terms of damage, he got 123,000 damage with ordinary armor-piercing shells, 13,000 damage with high explosive shells, and 10,000 damage with fires caused. So in this whole replay, Filipe played for long distance, and he didn't get any secondary guns fired, and all that damage was accumulated with main guns. So Filipe got 8 Citadel hits in that game and did a fantastic job. So well done to Filipe for that fantastic replay. If you guys have any replays you want to send in for me to have a look at, send them at ubiru0@gmail.com. So thanks a lot for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.